you have different chapters in life. And sometimes people like you to stay in one lane and they like you to be one thing because it makes them comfortable. But what I've discovered is I'm always happiest when I turn the page, start a new chapter, and try something that people don't expect.
You've been so instrumental with the Time's Up movement and really helping to bring attention to that issue. Where do you think we stand now? Have we made progress, and how can we keep the momentum up with that movement?
I think a tremendous amount of progress has been made. You know, the Me Too movement has been really powerful throughout the world. I read a news story today about women in Russia who have been speaking up in a way that they have never spoken up before. Women in Kazakhstan, Africa. It's a global movement, and I think Me Too and Time's Up is all about breaking the silence that's kept women and people of color and anyone who feels other in the workplace feel less marginalized. And I think that's powerful, and I don't think it's going backwards. I think it's only going forwards.
And you had even been active in a movement earlier, Ask Her More, which I don't know if as many people know about. So tell me what that was and why that was important.
Ask Her More was a campaign around 2015 to have journalists on red carpets ask actresses more than what they were wearing. So, you know, it was just kind of this idea that these women worked really hard. It's actually a job that you had to perform to a certain level in order to get the acknowledgement of being nominated by your peers or by any group or entity, so that instead of asking about the fashion on the carpet, which is beautiful and amazing, but is not a creation of the actresses, that's something a company made, and bringing it back to the work that these women were doing, which is something that I think is really important. Get it back to the idea of what really got you there was the hard work and dedication of a performance that was extraordinary.
So obviously this cause has been close to you for a long time, obviously predating Me Too and Time's Up.
Yeah, I started a company 7 years ago to create better parts for women in Hollywood. And it came out of frustration and just reading a lot of really bad scripts, like really bad scripts, and thinking women are more complex and interesting than they are being represented on film. And as my work has grown, as my company has grown, it's become clear that you can't change the stories unless you're changing the storytellers. So that's why a big piece of our company is hiring female directors, female writers, women of color, people in the LGBTQ community, disabled women, just people who have not had their stories represented on film. And it's been incredible, the response that has happened. And as companies are becoming more open-minded to the ideas that we need different storytellers, it's become an incredible time to be in our business and being a producer who is mission-based.
So I read a great quote from you, a pretty powerful quote, where you said, "It's not just the art you make, it's how you make the art that brings consciousness to the audience," which is stemming out of the same idea you just described. So even now, this is, you know, a predominantly female set, and the video team today is all female. Why do you think that impacts the final project and the way stories are told? Why is changing the storytellers and the people behind the scenes so important?
Well, I think you can't expect every movie to be made by the same 20 men and feel like you're getting different stories. And that has been, by and large, what's been going on in Hollywood for a long time. And you can't expect people to care about the stories the same way when it isn't from their perspective. So a lot of what we talk about in Time's Up, but also at my company, Hello Sunshine, is how do we get a holistic overview of every kind of part of entertainment, whether that's television, film, digital entertainment, mobile entertainment, social media, even shows that we're creating for social media. How can we tell a perspective that hasn't been seen before? And I think it's just different. I mean, we talk about the male gaze versus the female gaze. Women tell stories about women in different ways. People of color tell stories about people of color in different ways. And I think variety is the spice of life, and we're supposed to be seeing each other's stories. It's how we build compassion in this world. And I have firsthand for 25 years seen what movie making can do to communities all over the world. the impact a movie like, say, Legally Blonde can have on women in China or India. I have women coming up to me and saying, in Belize, I went to law school because of Legally Blonde. So just taking that idea and saying, what if we had that kind of powerful storytelling from other perspectives that was just as viable commercially? How could we change the world? And I really think we can.
Do you feel like there's a different energy when it's a more diverse set, when you've been in productions that are more diverse, whether it's gender-wise or LGBTQ or diversity of race?
Yeah, for sure. There's a different energy on set. I recently worked with Ava DuVernay on A Wrinkle in Time, and not just in the casting, but she actually creates a diverse crew behind the scenes, so that you're seeing 50% women, 50% men, people of color represented, every ability, every LGBTQ. You're just seeing every person with an opportunity to create movie magic. And the energy is different. I've never seen anything like it before. That kind of inclusion that makes everybody feel like they're part of the magic of movie making. And I think the audience feels it because they know it's happening and they know they're seen and heard. Because, all we really want in this world is to be seen. And when you finally see someone who looks like you on film, and the people who told the story look like you as well, or lived part of your experience, there's something deeply validating about that. And I think you carry that with you for your lifetime.
Yeah, actually, as a person of color, I totally agree. And that's part of the reason I ended up on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
So, Fast Company also reaches a lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs. What actionable steps could they take to help create diversity in all forms in their businesses?
Well, I think you have to look at, there's two ways to look at it, from the top down and from the bottom up. What are you doing to make sure that your board is inclusive, that you really have 50-50 representation of male and female and people of color and people of disabilities? And you have to think, like, if particularly if your consumer is all of those things, it's important that you're aware that the people making the decisions are aware of the audience or the consumer. I think that's just good business and good sense. And from sort of the HR level up, I think it's important to have a lot of interns and who wouldn't necessarily think they would have a career in that particular field. So we seek out our interns. We really make a conscious effort to make it feel accessible to people who wouldn't necessarily think, gosh, I want to be a movie producer or work in digital content. And we put cameras in their hands, and we have them shadow our editors, and it's really important that we mentor the next generation.
How do you find them? How do you go outside of your network? Because a lot of Silicon Valley has a diversity issue as well. And one of the things we've often heard is, well, the reason is they stay within their network. The people they know firsthand, people they've worked for, and they're all a similar demo. So how would you suggest breaking out of your network?
Well, I think that's one of the great things about Time's Up. It has connected me with a lot of people within my industry that have an ability to, I can say to them, I'm looking for more diversity at Hello Sunshine, or I'm looking for more people from the LGBTQ community. And I think that's an important part of the socialization of these causes and these movements, is that we have to help each other become more inclusive. So I'm working with Ava DuVernay. She has an incredible company called Array Now that helps people of color become filmmakers and showcase their work. But it is also, she has an incredible network of people who work behind the scenes. So that's very helpful to me. We struggle sometimes in the digital space to find people who have grown up the ranks in social media, in digital, and so I think that's a new frontier for us that we need to kind of tackle and conquer. But we're always probably making more calls about who to bring in as interns than worrying about who's on our board, I think.
So a general question, who's a female role model of yours? And how has that person shaped you and given you advice that you carry with you even today?
gosh, I have a lot of female mentors. I mean, Oprah comes to mind. It's because I had the extraordinary opportunity to work with her this year and travel with her promoting a film. And every free moment I would ask her what she's learned. You know, in a way, she has multiple master's degrees in human behavior. She's done over 34,000 interviews of people. So I would always say to her, like, what do you think people, what do people want? What's the one thing that's sort of the connective tissue of humanity, of people you've met? And she said, people just want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged, and they want to know that they were understood. So I thought that was really beautiful and so poignant. And if I can help people do that, I'd feel really, really proud of the work I've done in this world. But I have so many female mentors. I love Mindy Kaling as a woman who saw a deficit of characters like her and thought, well, why not me? You know, why don't I write my own character? And then it became, why don't I write my own show that I star in? No one's gonna write it for me. And I love that attitude that you can't sit around and wait for the phone to ring. You have to be proactive, and sometimes you have to do things that are completely frightening and foreign to you and pretend you're brave. And then you get braver along the way. I always say it's like jumping 2 feet into a cold pool and figuring out how to swim later. But you can't get anywhere, you know, new in life if you're not pushing against the boundaries.
And that's kind of how you created Hello Sunshine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I created Hello Sunshine because, first of all, I started looking at consumer behavior. Women are going to the movies less. They're watching a lot of streaming, a lot of social media, a lot of digital content. And people are like, what's digital content? Well, a lot of it's just that stuff you see on the internet. Like this. It's just not on broadcast, but that's what I was noticing it in my life. I was noticing in my friend's life. I was noticing my 18-year-old daughter was watching a lot of that, and my 14-year-old son. And I thought, well, who's creating that digital content for women that's interesting? That's not about, I sort of looked at the whole spectrum of what was being created, and I thought, there's so many more aspects of what women are interested in. So that's where Hello Sunshine was born out of. We still make movies, we still make television shows, but now we have this great Facebook shows and a show on AT&T that's all about women I find interesting, and I'm interviewing them, and it's just expanding the idea of what are women interested in and reaching out to them in different platforms.
We often ask people about productivity hacks, kind of like one little trick or, you know, your little tip for how to be productive as you're juggling, you know, 2 businesses and, you know, your career, your film career, and also your personal life. So if you have any little tip that really helps you kind of keep on top of everything.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I have a couple. I multitask a lot. So this year, probably because I've been in too many car wrecks, I decided to stop driving myself back and forth places. So I'll either Uber or I'll get a driver. That really helps me a lot. And I'm also not distracted or doing anything dangerous. So I'll check my emails in the car so that I'm not, by the time I get home, it's over with and I can just focus on being a mom and being present with my family. That, also another thing I think is I have to read a lot. I read a lot of manuscripts and a lot of books. So whenever I get a chance and I feel like I'm a little bit tired and my reading isn't gonna be as accurate, I also download Audible books and I'll switch from reading to the Audible. And so I can get through things much quicker like that. And also, sometimes your brain is just working in a different way. It's easier to absorb information if you're hearing it as well. So that's my little hack.
I think that's it. Is there anything you want to add that I haven't covered that, you know, you just want to get out there, whether it's having to do with Time's Up or your businesses or your projects?
It's fun. I'm having the time of my life. I'm honestly having the time of my life. I had no idea that my career would just get better and better. And I think it's important that people know, like, you have different chapters in life. And sometimes people like you to stay in one lane and they like you to be one thing because it makes them comfortable. But what I've discovered is I'm always happiest when I turn the page, start a new chapter, and try something that people don't expect. And it's scary sometimes. You don't know if it's going to be successful or not successful, but you'll never know until you try. So try it. Go out there, try it.
Excellent. Thank you, Reese.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Thank you. Great questions.
Well, thank you.
I love it when the camera women let me nod. Yeah. I'm like, yes. Yes.